My name is Martin and welcome to this short video where I will show you how to configure remote span from a physical switch port and setting the destination to a virtual machine in VMware vSphere. First of all, what is RSPAN? RSPAN is an extension of SPAN called Remote Span or RSPAN. RSPAN allows you to monitor traffic from source port distributed over multiple switches, both physical and virtual. That means you can centralize your network capture devices. Compared to local SPAN ports, RSPAN works by mirroring the traffic from source ports of an RSPAN session onto a VLAN that is dedicated for the RSPAN session, whereas a local SPAN session mirrors two or more physical ports into one port connected to the monitoring device. This dedicated RSPAN VLAN is then trunked to other switches, allowing the RSPAN session traffic to be transported across multiple switches. On the switch that contains the destination port for the session, traffic from the RSPAN session is simply mirrored out the destination VLAN towards our port group where the monitor VM is connected. Let us have a look at the topology before starting. I am using a Cisco Catalyst 3550E for this example. The Cisco commands on the Catalyst switches are similar if you're using a Cisco Nexus switch. The Cisco 3550 port 1 is connected to a ubiquity access point as this device generates actual traffic, so we'll be able to see traffic in our RSPAN. The Cisco 3550 is also connected to my ESXi host. I'm using two 1 gig ports for my VMware ESX edges and will use this DVS for the destination SPAN VLAN. The running version of the vSphere environment is 7. I have a Ubuntu VM with TCP dump installed that will connect to our SPAN VLAN port group for monitoring the traffic. Now we have the topology and definitions in place, let's get started with the configuration. First, I will start with configuring the SPAN VLAN and define this VLAN as our RSPAN VLAN. Just for the ease of future troubleshooting, I always give my VLANs a name. Next, I configure the monitor session on the switch. The source interface configuration is the same as if I was creating a local SPAN port. The difference is in the destination part of the configuration. Here we define that we will go to a SPAN VLAN, in this case VLAN 800 as we created early on. It is always advised to do a show command when completing the configuration in order to check everything is okay. From here I need to add the port group to the DVS I'm using. This creation procedure is the same for all port groups, no matter if it's used for SPAN or any other kind of traffic. Just remember to set the VLAN type to VLAN and the VLAN ID to 800. Now we can add this port group to the Ubuntu VM that is our monitoring station. This is done in the hardware settings for the VM where I simply add a new network adapter. Make sure it is connected to our SPAN VLAN. This is where the naming comes in handy if you have many port groups. It can be a bit difficult to find the correct one, but you can just type in the name in the filtering and select the correct one. Just click OK when finished and we now have a second network adapter attached to our VM. Now go back to the DVS and click on Configuration and select Port Mirroring. We start by click New Port Mirroring Session. In Type, I select Remote Mirroring Destination. Click Next. In Status, select Enable if you want the session to start right away. Otherwise, leave it as disabled. In this case, I just enable the session and click Next. For the source, click Add and type in the VLAN ID. In this case, we're using VLAN 800 and click Next. For the destination, select the port ID for the Ubuntu VM. This is the adapter I added earlier on. Make sure to select the correct one. Otherwise, you might risk and saturate a VM adapter that is used for production traffic. Click Finish when ready, and you should now see a port mirroring session that in this case is enabled. Then we can go back to the Ubuntu VM and type in the TCP dump command, and we should see traffic coming in on this interface. And the source of the traffic is coming from the physical interface from the Cisco switch. And that is basically what is required to configure RSPAN with VMware using a Cisco switch. To do so, we have completed these steps. We created a VLAN on the Cisco switch. We created an RSPAN session. In VMware, we created a port group. We added the port group to a VM. We created the monitor session for the DVS. And we finally monitored the traffic using TCP dump on a Ubuntu VM. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful to configure RSPAN ports into a VMware environment.